Gigging possibilities. We're going to run down this list, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about each of my experiences with this. Weddings and anniversaries. So we just, Alora and I did a wedding on December 30th at a golf course in town. It was a riot. I'll show you a picture of that later. Weddings are a great time of celebration. Dueling pianos is a wonderful way to entertain wedding guests. They love it. A lot of wedding people don't even know that it's a possibility because they're not curious. Birthday parties. I once did a show at someone's house in South Calgary. They had a grand piano at their house, and I brought a microphone and a speaker, and I performed for 5.25 hours in a row for this guy's 50th birthday party. I got paid overtime because the contract said that if you perform this much time, you get this much, but if you play extra, then there's an overtime clause. And I think I made $1,500 that day. And I don't say this to brag. I'm just telling you what I've done. I went to Los Angeles and was part of a coaching cohort, and they told me something important. They said, it's not bragging if you've done it. So I'm going to claim that. Seniors' homes. These gigs actually are some of the most rewarding gigs you can do because a lot of people in seniors' homes can't get out. They can't go and see performers. They can't go to concerts because they're stuck. So it's great to go to them and minister to them. Entertainment value for older people. They've got a certain set of songs that they grew up with, and you can learn those songs and play them for them. We'll talk a bit more about that in a bit. Pub dates. There's lots of pubs in town. There's tons of Irish pubs. And all it takes is a phone call to call them up and say, hey, I'd love to do like an hour set. Maybe you do like an hour set for them for free just to prove that you have value and say, let's do a thing once a month, and you can earn like $200 or $300 for a show that you do without having to set up a lot of equipment. Sometimes they even have equipment there for you. Like here at Long McQuaid, they've got this PA system set up for me, so it's less equipment for me to set up. Background instrumental music. I've done Christmas music downtown at 8th Avenue Place for corporate shows for like a couple of hours. You set up this piano shell, just play instrumental tunes, and smile at people, and they love it. It's great. Sporting events. I'm going to go back in time to the late 80s right now. I was in a rock band. It was a Christian rock band in Medicine Hat, and we did all these gigs, but we weren't getting paid for anything. And the curiosity in my head, curiosity is the big theme today, by the way, if you haven't figured that out. In my head, it was like, what would it be like to do music but get paid for it? And so my first gig was playing the organ for the Medicine Hat Tiger Games in the late 1980s. So my dad knew some people in the media business, and they said, you know what, I think my son could do this gig. So I got paid $35 a game to play this. Anyway, you get the idea. So that was my first paid gig, playing the organ for the Medicine Hat Tiger Games. One of my friends in Lethbridge, his first paid gig was playing the organ for the Edmonton Oilers. Great way to make money, but I was making $70 to $105 a week just playing the organ for 3 or 4 hours. And you're not playing nonstop because you got to wait for the play to stop, that sort of thing. But anyway, sporting events, another neat way to earn money. Corporate parties. There's a lot of companies at Christmas time that throw parties and they need entertainment. They might be like Funny Money Casinos. It might be a guitar player. It might be a hypnotist, a comedian. Lots of musicians have a lot of work at that time. Cruise ship gigs. So this is a bucket list thing for me. In 2016, I got to do a 2-week Caribbean cruise with Norwegian Cruise Lines on a ship called the Getaway. And there's something called Howl at the Moon in the United States. It's a national chain of dueling piano clubs, and they have a Howl at Sea feature where you go on the cruise ship. There's a comedy club, and you have these dueling piano shows as well. So I played for 2 weeks in 2016, 4 shows a week, and I made $2,000 a week, including tips. No expenses. You could eat whatever you want. You could go do excursions. I was afraid I was going to get beat up, so I stayed on the ship all the time. But I have friends who do like 3, 4, 9-month contracts on cruise ships, and they bank tons of money. and you don't have to be Liberace to do it. We'll talk more about that later. But cruise ship gigs, if you're a piano player, piano entertainer, you can do solo shows in the courtyard, or you can do dueling shows if they have that sort of thing. There's also theater shows. There's all sorts of ways to make money on cruise ships. Dueling piano clubs. So in 2006, there was a place in town called New York, New York. It was South Calgary. I don't know if any of you remember that, but that was the first time I did a show of that capacity. I had no idea what I was doing, completely clueless. A friend of mine, Keith Flowen, asked me if I'd come and help him because his partner was sick or busy or on vacation. And so I said, okay. So I did that gig, and then I also played at a place called the Ivory Club up in Edmonton. And then in 2008, I got my first gig at Aussie Rules, the local piano bar. So if any of you have ever been to Aussie Rules, I was the musical director there from 2014 to 2016, and I played there full time from 2011 to 2014. And that means 3 shows a week, every week, all the time. So we'll talk more about that in a bit. Fundraising events. A lot of companies in Calgary, Edmonton, bigger corporate centers, even smaller towns have fundraising events all the time. They're always looking for entertainment, and dueling pianos or solo piano shows is a fantastic way to raise money. You can start bidding wars with people. These people want to hear that song, and those people want to hear this song, and you can quickly generate $300 to $500 in a matter of 10 minutes if you know what you're doing. And when you raise that much money for fundraisers, guess what? They're calling you to come back next year because they liked what you did. I saved this one for last. I had it underneath seniors' homes, and I thought that would be very in poor taste. So, fun story. When I played at Aussie Rules, my boss, Bob, asked me if I would go play for this funeral. I'm like, what is that all about? So this person who had the funeral, they liked all these classic 80s rock songs. And so I was paid to go and play piano versions of Sweet Child of Mine and like an AC/DC, some other really weird songs that you would not normally play at a funeral. I wound up playing piano renditions of them, and people were crying, and they loved it, and it was great. Very weird gig, but yeah, I made money playing at someone's funeral, and people really appreciated it. People came up to me after like, that was so-and-so's favorite song, and tears are coming out of their eyes. It's like, all right. It's a bonus when you earn money, but it's a real bonus when you move people in a way that you didn't think you were going to. It's like, this was obviously a big deal.